Shalom Chaverim, today Parashat Vayera, and we're going to do it together with the help of Don Quixote and Maurice Merleau Ponty, a little bit of Rambam. It's going to be fun. All right, so let's begin with a quote. Some take the broad road of overweening ambition, others that of mean and servile flattery, others that of deceitful hypocrisy, and some of true religion. But I, led by my star, follow the narrow path of knight errantry, and in pursuit of that calling I despise wealth, but not honor. All right, so this is a part of a monologue of none else by the Knight of La Mancha, or La Mancha, the way you want to pronounce it, Don Quixote. The original title, The Ingenious Gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha, was published in two parts, first in 1605 and then in 1615, written by the Spanish Miguel de Cervantes, and it really earned the very respectful title of the first modern novel, or the first European novel by some, but definitely very, very respected. And there's no doubt that it had tremendous influence and is foundational in Western literature. And it really, just as a kind of a refresher, tells the story of a nobleman, a man of wealth named Alonso Giano, who, after reading too many books, and actually specifically books about knights and about knights' adventures, decides to embark on a journey of his own. He basically wears the character of a knight himself, finding old, armor and some equipment in his home, and he names himself Don Quixote. And of course, this leads to many tragic comic situations that were very new in literature at that time. And, so basically it's tragic comic because in the most famous account, Quixote fights figments of his imagination, as we all know, the fight against the windmills that he considers giants. But sometimes he actually does do really heart moving acts of social justice, where, for example, he sees a master whips his servant with a whip and tied, and he very bravely rescues that poor servant. Now, tragicomic because eventually he makes the life of that servant worse at the end, but his heart is in the right place. And today in our Torah portion, is Vayera. And Vayera brings, among many other powerful stories, the story of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, which is really one of our foundational stories in the entire Jewish tradition. And I want to bring a commentary today, a Hasidic commentary for that moment of the Akedah, from Rabbi Yehuda Leib Eiger, who's most people know him as Rabbi Leibele, and born in 1816, died in 1888, and he was actually the founder of the Lublin Hasidic dynasty. And he was the student of the Kotzker Rabbi and the Mea Shiloach, and he was the teacher of Tzadok Cohen. So he's really kind of sitting in the middle there with Hasidic work. And this commentary is taken from his book, which is called Sefer Imrei Emet. Okay, so here's the verse that he tackles that I thought was pretty interesting. ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים. So what this verse describes is that they arrived at the place where Abraham was told, and this is where he prepares the altar and put his son Isaac on top of the wood. Now you would see that in most translations, it would mima alaitzim would be on top of the wood. But Rebbe Leibele, and he was, by the way, not the only one, saw something curious. Why does it say mima'al la'etzim and not al ha'etzim? Now, let me explain to you the grammatic difference. Mima'al la'etzim means more beyond the wood, whereas al ha'etzim means on top of the wood. So, on top of the wood, it should have been al ha'etzim and not mima'al la'etzim. So, in his commentary, Rabbi Leibele is saying, and this is a little mind-blowing, ממעל העצים היינו למעלה מעץ החיים ועץ הדעת. Which means, he takes the word wood, which in Hebrew is etzim, but etzim also means trees. So this is not on top of the wood, but it's beyond the trees. So what Rabbi Leibele is saying is when Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac, his state of mind was beyond the tree of knowledge and beyond the tree of life. To explain a little more, I want to bring, this obviously comes from the verse in Genesis about the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. Now, the Rambam, Maimonides, in his book Guide for the Perplexed, he has a really good explanation of what is Etz Hadat, what is the tree of knowledge. So basically, he says that before Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, they were in a state of mind that he's calling, in the Hebrew translation of it, muskalot, meaning they only knew truth or lie. They only knew emet v'sheker. They only knew what is or what is not. So basically, their perception of reality was an ontological perception, if you will, but of what is and what isn't, what is true and what is false. Once they ate from the tree of knowledge, they transitioned from the muskalot to the mefursamot. What is the mefursamot according to Rambam? Is that now it wasn't just true or false, but rather right or wrong. Meaning, now the perception of reality had judgment. So reality was now assigned values and aesthetics. So what is right and what is wrong, what is beautiful, what is ugly. Perception came from a place of judgment. Now, Rabbi Eyal Vered from Machon Meir in Jerusalem, who's, by the way, I really recommend for those of you who understand Hebrew to follow, but I will bring a lot of his stuff as much as I can here. He basically says that he shows how Abraham, throughout his entire life, was kind of beyond the trees, meaning that he lacked a basic egocentric awareness of reality. And he brings some examples of it. So for example, take that heroic rescue operation where he goes to rescue Lot. Okay, so he's going with a band of warriors against 4 kings. So it's like it doesn't come from a place that he's aware. It's just the right thing to do. So he embarks on that mission, and of course he prevails. Or in another point, he's not aware of his wife's beauty. The Torah is saying until the king notices it. In another place, he's not aware of his status and reputation as a successful, wealthy man when he literally runs to serve these 3 strangers that come to his doorstep as if he's nothing but a humble servant. So Eyal Vered saying he always lacked this awareness. And if you will, that lack of awareness really reminded me also of Don Quixote, which we will get to as well. Another interesting thing is that the French philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty wrote a very important book, which is called The Phenomenology of Perception. It's a book that was published in 1945. This book, by the way, which I took from Central Library, is not Phenomenology of Perception. It's actually harder to find, but this is basically 7 lectures by Ponty about the exact same thing. So it's actually written in a more easy to understand language. So if you want to know the gist, you can read this book. And what Ponty was saying is that that he suggested that our experience of the world is first oriented and then objective. And let me explain. He basically goes against traditional Western philosophy that basically claims that there is the things in and of it themselves. He basically goes against Kant, what is, and there is our perception in it. So that dualism. So what Ponty does, he goes against that dualism. What he says is that our perception of reality first comes from our personal point of view. And the best way to understand it would be if you think of video games, right? So any of you who ever played the first-person shooter games knows that there's the first-person, view where you are in the world from your own point of view, but then you can always switch it to the map. You can always switch it to look at things from the top. So basically what Ponty is saying is that it's not that we first need to understand that map and then know that we perceive that map in a certain way. No, we first perceive reality as a first-person shooter, and through that and all the filters of our experiences and our judgment and our history and our society and all of this, this is how we draw the map. And then only then we can see that map from above. So he's kind of like found a way to put together the objective and the subjective. And this is very, for those of you who are into phenomenology, but this is kind of like that standpoint. And what I find interesting in that is that this is exact opposite approach of Rambam. Right? Rambam says, or of the Torah as a whole, right? We were first in the muskalot, we were first in the map. And only eating from the tree gave us that egocentric point of view of knowledge, but Ponty says it's the other way around. Just something very interesting to think about. And I think that it's interesting because I feel that if we remove that egocentric perspective of reality, we become like Don Quixote. We become like Abraham. We become like little kids that really feel that anything is possible. And I think that perhaps this is what was so captivating for so many people about Don Quixote, about that you can call it naive, but really that standing above reality to truly fight what is wrong. I think that Kierkegaard basically called it in the best way possible, which really merged Don Quixote and Abraham. He called Abraham the knight of faith. In his book Fear and Trembling. And so in honor of our knight of faith, Abraham, I'm going to finish the monologue from Don Quixote. I have redressed injuries, righted wrongs, punished insolences, vanquished giants, and crushed monsters. My intentions are always directed to worthy ends, to do good, and to do good to all, and evil to none. If gentlemen, great lords, nobles, men of high birth were to rate me as a fool, I should take it as an irreparable insult. But I care not a farthing if clerks who have never entered upon the trod of the path of chivalry should think me foolish. Knight I am, and knight I will die, if such be the pleasure of the Most High. Shabbat Shalom.